Hey, I've been calling you. Why didn't you give me a heads up about today's appointment? What appointment? Suddenly, Danny's voice turned unusually serious. She told me I was in danger and had to get out of the car, no matter what. Hey, I'm Hanny, and this isn't just any story. It's the kind that turns everything you think you know upside down. See that girl over there? Not me. That's my twin, Danny. We may look exactly the same, but trust me, that's where the similarities end. She's perfect. I'm not. And it's been like that since we were kids. When we were little, Dad used to take us to the beach. And there was one game I loved more than anything. Daddy, look at my sandcastle.
Aw, honey, that is so cute.
Daddy, look at mine.
Wow, that looks like an actual castle. I can even walk inside it.
Yep, I used engineering principles to build. Come on, I'll show you around. Then Dad started praising Danny's giant sandcastle, completely forgetting I was standing right there. Maybe that's when the seed of rivalry between my sister and me first took root. Everything I could do, Danny could do better, sometimes without even trying. We had this science assignment at school called the Egg Drop Challenge. You know, where you have to build something that keeps a raw egg from cracking when you drop it from, like, a building. Sounds silly, right? But I took it very seriously. Great news! I have finally figured out the egg drop. It was 2 weeks of hard work, but I think mine is going to kill it.
Wonderful! Danny, I didn't see you working on yours.
Oh, I already figured it out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago? Like the week we got the assignment? Actually, the day we got the assignment. And yep, her project won. Ugh, Danny always made me feel so blah. She knew everything, nailed everything. People say I sound jealous. Blah, blah, but I'm not. Just frustrated. I mean, if your twin was perfect and popular and you weren't, wouldn't you feel the same? As I was walking down the school hallway, suddenly...
Hey, Hanny, where's your sister?
Wait, how do you know it's me and not her?
I mean, it's easy. You are you and she is she.
See? You see what I mean? Ugh! Well, it is what it is. I had to just focus on doing my own thing. Wait, what is my own thing again? She got the spotlight. I was just the shadow. To be honest, our relationship became very rocky. Who has the strength to listen to all that endless showboating? Hey sis, a boy gave me 2 tickets to see that movie you've been talking about. What? This has been sold out for months. I know. Some guy I met online tried to impress me with movie tickets. His dad's a film producer or something, but I told him I'd rather go with my sister. You mean the son of the producer of this movie wants to date you and you keep saying no? Yep. Let's go watch the movie together. Nah, thanks. I have homework.
What homework? We don't have homework.
I'm busy. Go to the movie with a producer guy.
Okay.
All the good things in life seem to belong to her. The friends, the cute guy, the fame. By the age of 15, Danny was already running a podcast called Here Comes Your Best Friend, where she helped people open up and understand their feelings. She became one of the most sought-after teens with a massive fan base. And me? I had nothing. Until one day, something happened that changed everything. It was the weekend, and our parents were attending a wedding out of town. My sister and I were minding our business at different corners of the house when suddenly a hurricane hit. It was so terrifying that I instinctively ran to my sister, but I found her in the hallway on the way to my room. Oh, I just wanted to be sure you're not too scared. I know you hate thunderstorms. Me too. We sat there in silence for a while, and the storm kept getting heavier. I am so scared. It's okay, sis. I got you. Come sleep in my bed. As long as we have each other, we'll be okay. That night, we snuggled into her bed, and it felt just like old times, when we were little, and loved each other. I forgot about the storm and slept peacefully. In the morning, the storm had passed, and our cell service was finally back. I woke up to the sound of endless notifications on Danny's phone. Everyone wanted to make sure she was safe. I checked mine, and the only messages were from my parents and grandparents. I instantly felt a pang of hurt. So nobody else in the world besides my family cared if I was okay? Was I really that irrelevant? The rage boiled in me as I walked towards getting breakfast. Phew, that took forever. Almost 1 million messages. Ooh, cereal. Can you make me a bowl? Ugh. Hey, Hanny, what exactly is your problem? All I do is be nice to you, and this is what I get? So sorry, I am a charity case that you need to be nice to. Enough of this nonsense. What is your problem? My problem is you. You pretend like you care about me, but you're just there enjoying your perfect life and being famous without me.
Perfect life? You think my life is perfect? Hanny, you couldn't walk a mile in my shoes.
Oh, really? Let's find out. We are the same size after all.
You have no idea what you're asking for.
Yeah, right. Being super famous is so hard.
Fine. Tomorrow, you will be me and I will be you.
You want to walk in my shoes?
You got it.
Hey, besties. Shh. It's me, Hanny. I'm going to be Danny today. We made the switch. Danny gave me a makeover this morning. Well, not much of a makeover because, hello. We are literally the same person. Anyway, I would be running the podcast, her IG, and everything else. I started the day responding to thousands of emails from fans. Then I prepped for the podcast episode I'd be recording later and headed for school. And guess what? Everyone in the hallway said hi to me.
Hi, Danny. Nice episode yesterday.
Nice glow today. In class, every classmate wanted to know what I thought. I had never felt so seen. It was shaping up to be the best day of my life when I heard my name over the speakers.
Danny, come to the front desk now.
I was excited, thinking something amazing was waiting for me. But the moment I reached the front desk, I saw two tall men standing there, waiting for me.
Miss Danny, we are here to take you to your appointment. We already have permission from the principal.
What appointment?
We had this appearance booked for weeks now. Did you not check your calendar?
Oh man, I forgot to check Danny's calendar. Of course I remember. Lead the way. I tried calling Danny to ask what this appointment was about, but I couldn't reach her. I had to relax and get ready to freestyle when I got there. We had been driving for over 20 minutes when Danny finally called back. Hey, I've been calling you. Why didn't you give me a heads up about today's appointment?
What appointment?
Suddenly, Danny's voice turned unusually serious. She told me I was in danger and had to get out of the car, no matter what. Stop the car! Who are you?
We are from Kaz Oil, and we know who you are.
What? Of course you do. I am Danny. I am famous. Get me out of here.
No, we know who you really are, and we're taking you to fix your mess.
The driver started speeding, and I was terrified to my bones. Suddenly, a deer ran across our car, and he pumped the brakes to avoid hitting it. As soon as they stepped out to check the car, I slipped out the front door and ran as fast as I could. All those PE classes finally paid off because I ran so fast they couldn't catch me. What did those guys mean or want? Just as I was hiding in a narrow alley, a hand suddenly grabbed mine. Let me go! The stranger suddenly covered my mouth. As I slowly opened my eyes, I realized it was Danny. How did you find me? That doesn't matter right now. Henny, things are dangerous. You need to go home now. I'll handle this and come back later. Just as I was about to stop her, it was already too late. In a flash, the two men grabbed her and sped off, leaving me frozen in horror. I immediately grabbed an Uber and followed them. Then I saw Danny and the two men get out of the car and walk into a mansion that looked like it came straight out of a horror movie. I quietly followed them and hid behind a door, just enough to see everything unfold.
It took months to figure out it was you, you know. Over 50 hackers are working around the clock to break your firewall. Imagine my disappointment to find out you're just a 17-year-old diva with a savior complex.
Actually, 15, sir.
Your nonsense has damaged the reputation of my company. We've lost so much money. Investors are pulling out, and you have to fix it right now.
That was a passionate speech. Let me think.
No. All right, Miss Doom. Let's play.
That man was the CEO of Kaz Oil, the biggest fuel company in the U.S. I'd seen him on TV before. Wait, did he just call her Miss Doom? A mysterious hacker who exposed corrupt companies for destroying the environment. Her last expose tanked the entire oil market after revealing how they dumped waste into the ocean and killed marine life. People admired her, but no one ever knew her identity. Until now. I felt shivers run down my spine. My sister Danny was more than a pretty face on the internet. She was also a warrior fighting for the environment and the future of our planet. Even in the face of danger, she was not backing down. I suddenly felt ashamed. I had to help her. I pulled out my phone and secretly live-streamed their entire conversation. Of course, keeping the camera turned away from Danny to protect her anonymity.
I will tell you how this is going to go. You're going to log into that thing you call a website and retract everything you said about us before things get ugly.
Just to be clear, am I retracting because I lied or because you were threatening me?
Listen, brat, I don't care. All I know is my boys will keep you here until every trace of Caswell's dirt is wiped from your sight. If not, it won't just be you. Your whole family will be in danger.
This is kidnapping and intimidation!
Then I would like to see you call the police.
It's time for me to reveal myself. No need. I already did.
Who? What?
Henny, why are you... Oh, you didn't know there are two of us? Boy, your hackers did a lousy job. Now, let me tell you how this is going to go down. I live-streamed your whole threat to a 15-year-old for the world to see. The police are on their way, so no need to run. Just sit pretty and wait. And then the police siren started screaming.
How the hell did you not know she's a twin? You idiots! Now we're all going to jail!
As soon as the police stormed in and took down the criminals, I ran to Danny and threw my arms around her. Thank you so much! How did you know to come save me? I followed you all the way here. Why did you have to be so reckless? There were other ways. They threatened our family. I thought I had to handle it alone. It was risky, but I've never been prouder of you. You have been carrying the burden of being Miss Doom and fighting for our environment. And I realized I should have done more to include you in my life. I never noticed how lonely your world must feel. I was nearly invisible today. I'm so sorry. To be fair, you actually tried to include me, but I was just too jealous. Well, this time I won't let you say no. Would you like to co-anchor my podcast? Please? I would love to. We hugged, and the warmth of it brought both of us to tears. Let's go home, sis. After that day, the Caswell scandal was all over the news. Danny and I weren't just praised as brave whistleblowers, we also became co-hosts of the podcast, Here Comes Your Best Friend. Going to school, hanging out, and doing everything together, it made life feel more alive and colorful than ever. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny. And I'm Hanny. Welcome to another episode of Here Comes Your Best Friends.
My life used to feel kind of normal, but then one day, something happened that shocked me so much that I don't know if I'll ever be able to come to terms with it. My mom died when I was a little girl, and that isn't even the shocking part. Of course, that was really hard, but I was too young to fully understand it. After this, my dad's sister, my Auntie Carol, moved in with us to help take care of me. My dad had always been a workaholic, and after Mom passed away, he spent even more time at work. My auntie came to my rescue, and she's been living with us ever since. Now that I'm 18, though, I can honestly say I don't feel close to my dad. My dad barely even knows me, so when I told him I wanted to study art at college, just like Mom had, he went crazy. He told me I had to study finance, or I wouldn't be welcome in his home anymore. I couldn't believe it, but I had no choice. He was paying my college fees, and all I wanted was to get out of his house and be my own person. On my first week as a freshman, I spotted a poster for an art class, and I decided to sign up. My dad didn't need to know, right? And anyway, the class was free. I walked into the class, and when the professor introduced himself as Jeff, I couldn't stop staring at him. He was like the same age as my dad, but there was something about him that made me interested. Finally, someone who also loved art as much as my mom had, and he encouraged me. I started spending more and more time painting, and less time studying finance. I didn't care anymore. One day after art class, Jeff asked me if I'd be interested in posing for a portrait. He said he sometimes did that in his spare time, and thought I would be a good model. I agreed straight away, and we arranged for me to go over to his house later in the week. I could barely sleep for the rest of that week. I was so excited. I knew it was wrong to have a crush on someone as old as my dad, but it was obvious that he liked me too. Why else would he invite me over? I wore the prettiest dress I owned and headed to his place. I was kind of nervous. What if he was actually married and I'd read it all wrong? But it was clear he lived alone, and as he showed me around his house, I saw no pictures of anyone, just art everywhere. I'm kind of shy, so I decided I'd wait for him to make a move, but he just painted me and didn't flirt or anything. I left feeling so disappointed. When I was on my way home, my dad called and asked me to come home that weekend as it was my auntie's birthday. I really didn't want to go, but I didn't want to upset my auntie. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Jeff, and even thought about texting him. I couldn't sleep, So I messaged him, saying thanks for a nice evening. And you won't believe. He replied straight away with a smiley face. Okay, so maybe he did like me. I went home that weekend, and as soon as I arrived, I knew something was wrong. My auntie wasn't even there. She'd gone to spend her birthday with some friends. My dad had tricked me. He started shouting at me, saying he'd called the college and found out I was failing some of my classes. I was so angry at him for going behind my back. I told him it was none of his business, and then I ran out of there. I don't know why I didn't just go back to the campus. Instead, I had what I thought was a better idea. I went to Jeff's place. I just wanted to see him. He'd make me feel better, I thought. But after knocking a few times, no one answered. I knocked once more really loudly, and then I heard footsteps. Jeff answered and looked shocked to see me standing there. He was all flustered, and I soon saw why. There was a woman, wearing a robe, standing behind him. Oh my gosh. So he had a girlfriend! I felt so embarrassed. He asked me if I was okay, and I stupidly lied and said I thought I'd left my purse at his place. He said he hadn't seen it, and then the woman in the background looked kind of annoyed. That week, I didn't turn up to art class. I was so humiliated. How could I have gotten things so wrong? I avoided the art studio so I wouldn't bump into Jeff. But one day, I was walking back to my dorm, and I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was him! He asked if we could talk, and I said I was in a hurry and rushed off. But then he shouted that there was something he needed to tell me. I slowed down and turned to face him. Then he asked me if we could sit down. This seemed serious. He then told me how he'd known my mom, that they'd studied art together back in college. And then he said something which made my blood run cold. He and my mom used to date! But that wasn't all. He said that they'd only slept together once, but that he thought he might be my real dad. I stared at him, my eyes totally wide. This couldn't be true. I asked him why he would think that, and he said the timing just seemed right, but that my grandpa hadn't approved of him and had set her up with my dad because he worked in a bank. My God! Suddenly, everything started to make sense. I've never felt close to my dad. Could this be true? He told me his friend worked at the hospital and we could do a DNA test right away. I was shaking so much, but said okay. And yep, the results came back. And he is my real dad. I told Jeff I couldn't believe how easily we'd found each other, and then he looked kinda guilty and said he'd been following me, that he'd applied for a job at my college when he found out I was going there. I didn't know whether to be happy or angry about this, and at the same time, I felt pretty sick that I'd thought my real dad had a crush on me, and the fact that I thought I'd liked him in that way too? Gross! Well, now there's only one thing for it. I need to go tell my dad, who raised me. Wish me luck. I don't think he's going to take it very well. I wish I could speak to my mom and get the truth. What if she'd been in love with Jeff all along? Hi everyone, my name's Maya. I just turned 17, and today I want to tell you the story which will seriously haunt me for the rest of my life. Let me start from the beginning. My family and I come from Germany, but we decided to move to Chicago in America. I was pretty nervous about it because I'd never been there before, but it turns out it's actually a pretty awesome city. We quickly settled into our new house, and before I knew it, my parents had decided to sign me up for the local school. I really didn't want to go, because back in Germany, I'd been bullied. The other kids thought I was a loser, and they did mean things to me. One time, I was pushed into a puddle, and someone kept stealing my homework. Then, the worst thing of all was when I sat on my seat, and someone had left a brownie there. So when I stood up, it looked like I'd pooped myself. I was so upset, and so this was why I wasn't keen to start at a new school. What if it was as bad as my school in Germany? Well, I didn't have much choice, and soon my new school life in Chicago began. On the first day, I introduced myself to my new classmates. I was expecting them to completely mock me like my old classmates, but thankfully, They didn't. They were actually surprisingly nice, and my math teacher, Mr. Jones, was such a nice guy. He started helping me with my math problems and always gave me lots of attention, making sure I was okay. He was an amazing teacher, but eventually, I started getting weird vibes from him. One time, I caught him staring at me with this creepy grin on his face. Another time, when I was sitting through an exam, he kept standing behind my back, and I felt like he was sniffing my hair. At some point, he even touched my lower back as he told me to sit up straight. It was really uncomfortable, but I stayed put since I didn't want to cause a mess during the test. Then it got worse when one day I dropped my pencil and bent over to pick it up. He came up to me and whispered, "You know, Maya, you should wear a miniskirt like the other girls. It would look great on you." I mean, who would say something like that to their student? I didn't reply to him. I just grabbed my things and walked out. Luckily, class was over, and it was lunchtime, so I went straight to the canteen and tried to forget about what Mr. Jones had just said to me. But as soon as I sat down, 3 girls approached me, and one of them said, "Beat it, new girl. This is our spot." I couldn't believe it. So I replied, "No, sorry, I was here first. Find yourself another place to sit." Well, you should have seen her face. She got so mad and started pulling my hair. I was screaming in pain, and suddenly I heard someone shouting behind me, "Hey, leave her alone, will you? Or do you want me to come over there and pull your hair? Let's see how you like it." The mean girl let go of me and walked off. And the girl who saved me ran over and said, "Hey, are you okay?" I told her I was fine. And after that, we became best friends. Her name is Mona, and she's the bravest person I've ever met. She's the same age as me, but she's not afraid of anything or anyone. I wish I could be more like her. Once, I plucked up the courage to tell her what had been happening with Mr. Jones. Mona wasn't surprised because she said she'd noticed how weird he was acting, and that last year, she'd actually caught him spying on some girls in the locker room. So she believed me and knew he wasn't a good guy. But sadly, she didn't have any proof of what he'd done. One afternoon, when we were walking home, I suddenly felt really anxious, almost like someone was following us. I told Mona I wanted to get home quickly, and we basically ran the rest of the way. When I got home, I told my parents about what had happened at school and on the way home. And do you know what they said? My mom said, "Maya, you're such a drama queen. There's no way your teacher would do that. And why would anyone follow you? It was probably just a neighbor." And then my dad said, "Go to your room. Don't tell lies just for attention, Maya." I couldn't believe my parents. How could they think I'd make something like that up? I was so upset. I skipped dinner and stayed in my room for the rest of the night. I eventually fell asleep, but at 3 a.m., I woke up. There was some kind of tapping noise that had woken me up, and I had no idea what it was. I went to check on my parrot, Lemon, thinking maybe she'd escaped out of her cage, but Lemon was fast asleep in her cage. So where was that noise coming from then? I opened the curtains to check, and that's when I saw a shadowy figure. I got such a fright and screamed so loud I woke up my parents. They came running to my room, and my mom said, "What's wrong, honey?" I was so scared I could barely speak and only managed to stutter, There's someone at my window." I pointed outside to show my parents, but by then, the figure was gone. I didn't understand it. It had just been there. My dad turned to me and said, "Come on, Maya, go back to bed. You probably just had a nightmare." Then they went back to their room and left me alone. But I did see something. It wasn't just a nightmare. Someone was following me, and I was going to find out exactly who it was. The next day, I told Mona about what had happened, and she was so worried. She said there were lots of weirdos in this town, and I had to be careful. After school that day, I decided to stay behind and ask Mr. Jones for help with my homework. Even though he'd been acting creepy, I decided maybe my parents were right, and maybe I'd just misunderstood him. Plus, I really needed his help on this, or else I might fail the upcoming test. And to be safe, Mona was right outside waiting for me, so if he tried anything, I could just scream for her to help me. I went to his classroom, but he wasn't there, so I decided to wait for him to come back. While I was waiting, though, I spotted something on his desk. I took a closer look and couldn't believe what I was seeing. There were 3 pictures of me sitting there. One was of me practicing my cheerleading, another was of me watching TV in my living room, and the third was of me in the shower. I knew I should have shut the blinds when I was showering the other day. Oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. Mr. Jones was stalking me. He'd followed me home and knew where I lived. This was a disaster. I took a photo of the pictures and sent them to Mona. She called me straight away and said, I knew it. My dad's a police officer, so I'll call him and he'll be here right away. But then I heard footsteps, so I hung up. Someone was coming in. It was Mr. Jones. As soon as he saw me holding the photos, he started doing that creepy smile again. So, you finally figured it out, he said. You know, I have a bit of a thing for German girls. Lucky me that I get to be around you every day. He was walking towards me, and I had no way of escaping. I tried to run past him, but he caught me and pushed me against the wall. I started crying and said, No, please, leave me alone. But he wouldn't let go. He tried to make a move on me, but I managed to kick him where it hurt most, and then I shoved him in the ribs with my school bag. He fell over, and I used that as my chance to escape. I made it out the door, and by that point, I was screaming for help. But Mr. Jones started chasing me. I have never run so fast in my life, and just as I turned the corner, the police arrived. The principal was also there, and so were my parents. Thank God! Perfect timing. I thanked Mona for saving me, because if it hadn't been for her, I dread to think what could have happened to me. My parents apologized for not believing me sooner. They felt so bad, and of course, Mr. Jones got sentenced to 30 years in prison. During the court case, he admitted to having assaulted 12 other girls over the past 5 years, which is why he got such a long sentence. If you ask me, he should have gotten even longer though. After that, I became a hero at my new school, and all the other girls were so grateful to me for getting him sentenced. And now that he's locked up, life at school is a lot more comfortable, and I actually enjoy it more than I thought, especially since I always have my best friend Mona beside me.
Hey, Arnie here. I'm a freshman at college, and I guess you could call me a nerd. I mean, I'm fascinated by computers and techie stuff, and I'm majoring in computer science. I'm just a regular guy who would much rather spend my free time on my computer than out partying. I don't really care about my appearance. As I see it, clothes are clothes. So a slouchy t-shirt and jeans will do me. I also suck at socializing. I clam up and just end up talking nonsense. I guess that's why I usually stick to being in my own computer guy bubble. Well, at least I did until I met Camilla. I'd never had a girlfriend before, which, given my awkwardness, was no great surprise. My first meeting with Camilla, well, it didn't go all that well. I was running late for my study group in the library. So I was rushing up the stairs and I bumped straight into Camilla, who was reading a book while walking down the stairs. I watched on horrified as she fell down the stairs. She fractured her ankle, and I felt so guilty and blamed myself for this. After that, I tried being the good guy and helping her out. I offered to carry her bag to class, but she huffed out. "Could you please stay away from me? I don't need your help, okay?" Then she glared at me. Another time I bumped into Camilla while she was sitting on the grass and passionately reading Twilight. So I bought her a signed copy of the second book in the series. She stuck her nose up at me, told me that book was so last decade, then limped off. I guess she was still mad at me for the accident. But then the next time I saw her, she was reading the book I gave her. She giggled, then said to me, "Okay, this is actually a really neat gift, thanks." After that, we started talking more, and I even helped her out with her studying. I'd never met a girl like Camilla before. She was so gentle, girly, and pretty. But like my thing was computers, her thing was books. She adored them, and she always had her head in a book. I admired this about her. A girl who reads as many books as she did must have a beautiful soul. I found myself falling for her, but being the awkward guy I am, I didn't think I stood a chance. Then one time after I'd finished helping her study, she leaned over and kissed me. Trust me, no one was as shocked about this as me. Not long after, we became an official couple, and at first everything was great. However, Camilla gradually became more and more addicted to her reading. She loved romance fiction, from the classics such as Pride and Prejudice, to more modern affairs such as The Fault in Our Stars. She loved them all. There were days she got so caught up in these fictional worlds that she read from night till early next morning, and she even missed college because she was too tired to go. We went to the library a lot to study together. While I studied, she usually stared dreamily out the window, lost in whatever fictional world was currently occupying her mind. and when I'd called her name, she never answered. After she finished each book, she went into this depressive state. It's like she couldn't deal with reality. After she'd finished reading The Notebook, she moaned that I wasn't handsome and attentive like Noah. I tried to ignore her, but then she finished reading the second book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series and shouted at me that Peter not only pampers his girlfriend, but he also plays sports and has a six-pack. She told me I should start working out and stop eating so much chocolate. Okay, so her comment did hurt. I always sucked at sports and was self-conscious about my lanky frame. So I started going to the gym to please Camilla. She seemed happy about this and mentioned something about being proud of having a boyfriend who was good at both studying and sports. Just like the handsome guys in romantic fiction. But honestly, I didn't like the gym all that much. My friend was on the basketball team, so I told him I wanted to join. Yeah, I hated it, but Camilla thought it was very impressive. During my first game, she stood at the side of the court and shouted, "Baby, I love you! Come on! I know you can do it, honey!" OMG, talk about cringeworthy. I knew she was very proud seeing me playing basketball, so it made me full of energy and I just longed for scoring. I was so nervous that I accidentally scored in the wrong net. Suddenly, she disappointedly shouted, "Oh no, Edward would never have embarrassed me like that." And that's when all of my teammates turned to me and laughed frantically, which made me really embarrassed. I threw the ball against the playground and walked to her angrily and asked, "Edward? Who's Edward?" Then I stormed off, leaving her there watching me in shock. I was so sick of being compared with some handsome guy in her fictional world, and sporty things were not an exception. I couldn't take it anymore. The more I participated in sporty things, the more I realized how much I hated them. I pined for computer algorithms. I wasn't a jock, no. I was the nerd who got a thrill from staying up all night writing code. That weekend, probably she wanted to make it up, so she asked me to go to the cinema to see some romance film. I was a bit cooled off, so I agreed. I showed up outside her place to pick her up, and my phone beeped. It was Camilla, telling me she'd be reading all day, now she was too tired to go. Besides, she'd reached the climax of her book and it was too compelling to put down. I was furious. I stormed back to my place. It felt like Camilla preferred these make-believe guys to me, her actual boyfriend. The next morning, I was still pretty mad. When I explained to Camilla how I felt, she started crying. Then she told me it was my fault for not caring about her last night, as she said she was tired. She wanted a hunk to bring her food, pamper her, and look after her. I couldn't believe what she was saying. Just because I wasn't as dashing as some fictional character guy didn't mean I didn't look after her. How dare she even say otherwise? I know this was crazy, but the problem is I really do love Camilla. So I came to the conclusion that if she wanted some perfect guy, I could be him, right? That evening, after a long day with loads of studying to do, I was about to take a bath and Camilla texted me, "Bae, I want to eat spaghetti, but it's raining outside." So even though I was tired, I rushed up to buy it for her and brought it to her place. You should have seen her face. She was extremely happy. Seeing her happy made my heart melt. Everything was good, but I ended up being sick. Blech. The next day, Camilla came to my place to look after me. She made me soup and helped me eat it. I ended up falling asleep, and when I woke up, she'd gone. I didn't think that much of this at the time, but then 3 days later, she still hadn't responded to any of my calls or messages. Finally, she answered my call and told me the reason why she was mad. Turns out she imagined herself as the main character in the romantic fiction book she just read. In that story, when the handsome guy got sick and his lover came to visit him, that's when she was feeding him, he kissed her. So she expected me to do the same, only I fell asleep instead. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was crazy. How could she expect me to be romantic when I was trying my hardest not to throw up? We arranged to meet at a cafe. There I told her how I felt. I just can't do this anymore. I can't be some sporty, handsome, sword-fighting charmer. I'm just a regular geeky me. Accept me for me or it's over. She apologized and began crying. She told me she just got so carried away with the scenarios in her books that she'd try her hardest to be a better girlfriend. A week passed by and Camilla seemed a little better. Then one time when we were outside the college, she pointed over at this sophomore guy and told me she was going to allow him to pursue her because in most romantic fiction books, the main female character usually had two guys competing for her. If I could beat this Zach guy off, then it proves I love her. If not, it must mean I never loved her in the first place. What? I stared at her open-mouthed. She'd definitely gone too far this time. I told Camilla I wasn't playing her dumb games anymore, then I stormed off. The next day I saw her talking to that Zach guy. Whatever he was saying to her was making her laugh, and she was twirling her hair around her finger and giggling. Great. Not only was this guy good-looking, but he was charming too. He resembled a gallant hero, while I was more like the villain. The problem is, I still love Camilla. How can I get her to realize that romance fiction fever is just that, fiction? Even though I might not be some handsome hero who leaves flower petal trails all over the house, I'm still a good guy who just wants to look after her. Hi, it's Arnie here again, just your regular computer-loving nerd. I've come back to tell you more about my story. Here's a quick refresher. I love my girlfriend Camilla, but she's addicted to romantic fiction. At times, it's like she even thinks she lives in one of those novels, which has led to plenty of awkward situations. Then one day she took it too far when she told me she was letting this handsome guy called Zach pursue her. Apparently, if I loved her, I'd fight for her and win her heart, just like the characters in her book did. I ignored Camilla for a full week after that. Then I walked past the basketball court and saw her there. She was watching Zach play, and she cheered and whooped when he scored. My heart flipped. Zach was so handsome, while I was some lanky nerd with messy hair, dowdy clothes, and a bloated belly. I was definitely the underdog in this competition. Feeling discouraged and missing Camilla a lot, I confided in my sister Paula. I guess I expected her to take my side, but instead, she advised me to stand up and take action. If I wanted to get Camilla out of her virtual world, then firstly, I'd have to step into her world to get her back. Paula told me that all girls love romantic fiction, and that Camilla loves them even more than most. So I should discover why she loves them so much by reading some myself. Then I could understand her and help her. Okay, so I guess Paula's plan made sense. But seriously, I was a computer guy, and now I was expected to read soppy books? Still, I'd do whatever it took to win back the heart of Camilla, as I truly do love her. Camilla had left some of her books at mine, so I started reading them. I'm a logical guy, so it didn't take me long to figure out the general format of these books. So I decided to learn from them in order to defeat Zach and win Camilla's heart back. So I derived a plan. The first lesson from these books seemed to be always love yourself first and love will come after. Okay, so maybe I was a bit scruffy. I guess I didn't resemble a guy who loved himself. So I went to the hairdressers, and instead of instructing them to do my usual short all over please cut, this time I asked them to give me more of a suitable and trendy style. Next, I asked Paula to come shopping with me, and she picked out some smart-looking jeans and a couple of nice polo shirts. Now, who said nerds couldn't have style? Finally, I faced my nemesis. Sports. Ugh. If I knew I wanted to have a well-built body, like Zach, then I needed to get fit. So I hit the gym and started jogging. For the first few weeks, I was a sweaty mess. But then I improved and actually found myself enjoying running. One time I was jogging through the park when I saw Camilla sitting on a bench reading. I jogged on the spot in front of her and said, "Hey." She was so shocked when she looked up and saw me that she dropped her book. As I bent down and picked it up for her, I turned around on purpose so she could check out my newly improved butt. I continued running, then peered back and saw her peering over at me from over her book. Talk about success. Now for the second lesson I learned from the reading soppy novels. The heroine should love a guy who she has this undeniable connection with. So finally, after 3 weeks of no messages or calls, I text her. "Camilla, I'd like to say that I accept your challenge and I'll prove my true love for you." The next day I waited outside of Camilla's class and invited her to lunch. To my annoyance, Zach appeared and invited himself along too. In the canteen, I pulled Camilla's chair out for her and told her I'd go pick out some food for her. "And I'll bring it over," Zach butted in. "How about if we both pick food and Camilla chooses which she wants to eat?" I replied. Needless to say, Camilla looked so excited. 2 guys were trying their hardest to impress her. This was a dream to her. I know how much Camilla loves bound salad, so I ordered a massive portion of them for her. And then I also got her a flapjack, while Zach chose some boring chicken fries for her and a massive burger for himself. Camilla looked at both trays of food, then dived straight in for the bound salad. Success again! Although poor Zach looked so disheartened that I even felt sorry for him. Well, almost. Last but not least, the third lesson. Although handsome guys often say cheesy words, that's not the point. What really makes the heroine happy was the feeling of being unique, the only one in someone's heart. Okay, so I have no idea how to say cheesy stuff, but I do truly care about Camilla. and thinks she's a unique and special girl. So I needed to prove this to her, right? I put my plan into action. I showed up outside Camilla's door smartly dressed and holding a massive bouquet of flowers. Camilla appeared and looked flustered as she took the flowers off me. I told her I was taking her to the cinema, but she just blushed and replied, "Sorry, Arnie, I'm meeting Zach there, as I've already arranged to see that movie with him." I felt gutted, but I forced a smile and replied, "Oh, okay, sure. I hope you have a nice time. I'll go with my friend then." But I went home, changed, then went for a jog. Yeah, I know what was happening to me. After that, I felt so frustrated, so I went on my computer for a bit. I couldn't get the thought of Zach and Camilla sharing popcorn and cuddling up together out of my head. I was beginning to think I was wasting my time. And no matter what I did, Camilla would always choose a guy like Zach over me. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Camilla. She was sobbing and asked where I was. She wanted to see me. Without even thinking, I rushed to her place. Before I could even ask her what was up, she ran into my arms and started kissing me. Okay, this was crazy and unexpected, but good. Very, very good. I made her a grilled cheese sandwich, then we cuddled on the couch. She asked me, "You told me that you'd gone to the cinema with your friend. So why could you be here with me?" I looked at her and said, "Yes, that's what I said, but I just wanted to go there with no one but you." She giggled and kissed me. This all seemed so surreal. And I'd worried I'd read so many romantic fiction books that I was now stuck in one. Then she told me that she'd shown up at the cinema only to find Zach wasn't there. So she'd waited for ages. Then he messaged her saying he was at a party and had forgotten to cancel their date. This proved to her that Zach didn't care about her at all. And it dawned on her that she didn't like him either. She loves me, and she had to see me straight away. From then on, Camilla ignored Zach. She apologized to me for all she'd put me through, and told me that lanky or not, she loved me unconditionally. She also promised to try and stay grounded, and to be not quite as dreamy, and to remember to take breaks to eat during her reading splurges. I know she loves fiction, and I would never ask her to stop reading the books she so loves. But I did ask her to limit her reading. Now she reads 1 book a week. Now things between us are better than ever. She still gets dreamy at times, especially after she's finished her latest book. But we both now realize how much we love each other, and we wouldn't want to be without each other. Besides, whenever she gets in her post-depressive book state, I handle it by being extra romantic toward her. I buy her colorful flowers. I take her on romantic picnics in the park. And I make her breakfast in bed, complete with heart-shaped pancakes. We also reserve one night a month for fantasy date night, where we both pretend to be characters from a romance novel. It's actually great fun, and Camilla loves it. I may be a computer nerd and Camilla a book geek, but that doesn't mean we don't work well together. Prince Charming doesn't have to gallop in on a stallion and have perfect hair. No. Instead, it turns out he can just be a normal... Hey there, I'm Connor, and something really creepy happened to me, so I'm going to tell you all about it. I have to warn you, though, it's on the spooky side. So there's a chance it may freak you out so much you have to sleep with the lights on. There's also a chance you won't believe me, and that's up to you, but please remember that this is real for me. I believe in this stuff, and always have. In fact, I've been obsessed with the afterlife since I was little. I used to have open dreams, where strangers would come and try to connect with me. It was often ambiguous that I barely saw their faces. All I could remember after awakening was just a shadowy or indistinct shape with strange gestures, like a message. When I told my parents about them, my mom made it out that it was all nonsense, but my grandma assured me that there might be some spirits trying to tell me something. She told me not to worry, as most spirits had no intention of causing me harm. Sometimes these spirits would tell me things. Once, one appeared with a dog. Then a month later, my dad came home with a puppy. Then another time I dreamt that Grandma had passed away. I didn't dare to tell anyone about that dream. I was so scared it would come true. Then, you guessed it, a few months later, she died. I came to dread those dreams, and worst of all, now I didn't have Grandma to confide in about them. To be fair, as I grew older, the dreams stopped, but my fascination with the afterlife didn't. I knew not to mess around with this kind of stuff, as doing so was bad news. Grandma had always told me that. But then I started dating Jennifer, and I really wanted to show her this side to the world. So I bought a Ouija board from Amazon. Well, it's a flat board with letters and numbers on it that's used as a gateway to the spirit world. I knew the rules. Never try this at home, as that was asking for trouble. The last thing I needed was to unleash a poltergeist or something worse in my house. Also, never ask the spirit to show themselves. So the plan was to sneak into the old house in my neighborhood that had just sold and was currently empty. I told Jennifer about my plan. She'd never done anything like this before, and although she was skeptical, she was also excited. That's what I love about her. She's so brave and adventurous. We met in the house's front yard at 3 a.m. as we planned, and both of us were seriously in the mood when we were trying to break into it. Yeah, I know, this sounds bad. But we didn't want to make a mess of the place or anything. We just wanted somewhere empty where we could test out the board. Firstly, we set the mood by lighting candles, incense, and burning sage. Before I started, I grabbed Jennifer's hand and said out loud, "Please don't show up, evil forces." Then I placed a silver coin on the board to deter bad spirits. Then we both placed our index fingers on the planchette, which is a movable pointer, and took a deep breath. I called out into the darkness, "Is anyone there? If spirits are living here, please talk to us." Nothing. Not even the slightest bit of wind. Jennifer laughed, and this annoyed me. I suppose she could tell from my face that I was mad. So she smiled at me and said, "I'm sorry, let's try again." Then placed her finger back. Then I said, "If there's anyone there, we would like to make contact." I was getting goosebumps right at that moment. And the wind started to pick up. The stillness broke, and the darkness around us seemed to move. Excited, I yelled out, "Is anyone there?" Then it got super crazy. Like it was this scene from a movie with dirt swirling around us. The planchette started moving slowly. Jennifer looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" "It's not me, I promise," I replied. I looked up at her, and the moment our eyes met, we knew the planchette was moving by itself. I continued asking, "How many spirits are there?" It took a minute of silence for the planchette to move to 1. It was becoming interesting. "Are you a good spirit?" It moved faster. Youguess. Okay, I considered it a yes, and continued questioning it on some simpler things. "Can I know your name?" The answer was Sameasher. At this point, I could hear Jennifer freak out. It was kind of creepy because I didn't call her name even once. I said, "If you're really here, prove it." Jennifer jumped up. "Hey, we promised not to ever ask it to prove its appearance." Suddenly, a gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew out one of the candles. Jennifer yelled at me to stop this now. Then she ran out of there. I quickly said to the spirit, "Nice to know you, but it's time for us to go. Goodbye." And at the same time swept the planchette over the goodbye symbol on the board to quit. Then I picked up the stuff and chased after Jennifer to check if she was okay. She was completely freaked out and told me she was never doing that again. The problem was, I couldn't stop thinking about the spirit. The new owners would soon move into the house, so I didn't have many opportunities left to go back there. So 1 week later, again at 3 a.m., I persuaded my daredevil friends Austin and Miguel to meet me there. I set the board up, and we began. I asked a few questions, and nothing happened at first. Then after a while, the board kept pointing out meaningless letters. I actually thought it was the others messing about. They soon got bored and all thought it was just my imagination all the time. Feeling annoyed, Austin left to go to the toilet, and Miguel and I carried on. I believed in my previous experience, so I persistently continued asking, "Do you know who's in the toilet now?" But still, the board only gave out random numbers. When Austin came back, Miguel gave Austin the numbers we'd recorded and said that this time it might not work and we should just go. The color drained from his face. It turns out the numbers were his own social security number. Austin began accusing this of being a setup. I told him it wasn't. I guess he was curious as he sat back down and joined in. And that's when Miguel asked a stupid question. "How much longer is this loser Connor kid alive?" I gave him a dirty look and said, "I told you not to joke around." Then the planchette started moving, stopping on the number 1, then 0. 10 years. I only have 10 years left. This was awful. I was too young to die in just 10 years' time. But no, the planchette continued to move. And to my horror, I watched it go between the letters D, A, Y, S. "Quit it, guys. This isn't funny," I shouted out to them. They stared back at me with a mixture of shock and fear. Okay, I was pretty sure they hadn't moved it. They urged me to end the game and go home. not forgetting to tell me to never play this game again. Easy for them to say. They're not the ones being told they will die in 10 days. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. It was awful. I was so stressed out it took me ages to fall asleep. Then when I eventually did, I had an open dream. I dreamt of a spirit girl who was walking to school with me. Then suddenly she pushed me into traffic and a car was coming. I woke up in hot sweats. 3 days later, I sneaked to the house again by myself and asked only one question. How much longer do I live? And she answered, 7 days. So it couldn't be a random answer. The spirit was counting down my remaining days on Earth. 3 days later, I still couldn't stop myself from going there and repeating the same question again, and the answer was 4. I couldn't just wait to die. I had to do something. So I told my parents about it, but they didn't believe me, and even scolded me for playing weird games so late at night. On the day my time was meant to be up, they saw the state I was in. I couldn't stop shaking and refused to get out of bed. There was no way I was going near a road today, so my mom rang the school and said I was sick. Then she stayed home from work and barely left my side. That day went so slowly, but nothing happened. It's a month later now and I'm still alive. I did end up grounded for 3 months for sneaking out at night and terrifying my parents. When my punishment's over, there's no way I'll be taking the Ouija board to any more empty houses. In fact, I've stuck it in the attic and that's where it's staying forever. So that's my story. You can decide for yourself if you're willing to try it or not. But my main advice to you is don't meddle with this stuff, as it's definitely...
Hey, I'm Millie. I'm 14, and I have the biggest crush on my older brother's best friend, Jason. When my brother said Jason and his other friend were staying over that weekend, I was super excited. Things got even better when my parents planned a last-minute trip away, and our cool Aunt Cheryl came to stay with us. We both knew that she'd be too busy binge-watching her fave soap opera to care about what we did. That's why she's the coolest aunt. So I decided to also throw a slumber party, and I invited my 2 best girlfriends, Jane and Rosie, over. My plan was that we could order pizza and ask my brother and his friends to join, so I'd have a chance to hang out with Jason. I knew they'd say yes. I mean, when did boys ever turn down pizza? After we all ate loads of pizza, we watched scary movies together and played games. It was really fun. So fun, in fact, that even my usually moody brother couldn't stop laughing. I wore my cutest pajamas and was extra nice to Jason, making sure he always had a drink and stuff. We played 2 truths and 1 lie, and the boys lost. So we made them give up the mattresses in my brother's room for us to sleep on, as sharing my bed with 2 friends was kinda uncomfortable. The boys had to carry the mattress to my room and make the bed for us. It felt so good to be able to have one up on my brother and boss him around. Rosie and I got into my bed and Jane claimed the mattress, as she tossed and turned loads in her sleep. For fun, we ordered the boys around a little more. I made them check the room for spiders and to take the trash downstairs. Then, Jason turned off the light for us and said goodnight before they went back to their room. That was so sweet. We chatted for a bit. Then Jane said she felt left out, so she crawled into my bed. It was too cramped for me to sleep, but that didn't seem to stop the others from drifting off. I kept thinking about Jason and how I was sure he'd been looking at me as he turned the light off. I went downstairs to get myself a glass of water, and on the way back to my room, I heard noises coming from my brother's room. I listened outside of the door. They were playing truth or dare of some sort. I heard them teasing Jason about liking one of us, and said that the next dare would be to sneak into the girl's room. Worried that they'd walk out and see me, I quickly ran back to my room. I didn't even have time to climb into my bed, so I threw myself onto the mattress and laid still. Then, a while later, I heard footsteps. It must be Jason. His shadow got closer to me, and it felt like he was leaning down. And then, he kissed me! OMG! I tried my best to pretend like I was asleep. Then, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I kissed him back. He gently stroked my hair, then left. I couldn't believe it! He liked me too? And that was my first kiss ever! The next morning, I woke up early, did my hair, put on a pretty dress, and made pancakes for breakfast. I made one in a heart shape for Jason, which I set up on the table. But when everyone came downstairs, my brother took that heart-shaped pancake and gave it to Jane before I could do anything. Did he like my best friend? Ew, no way! After everyone left, I immediately told my brother he couldn't like my friend, but he told me that she liked him too. He said he knew I liked Jason, so we should join forces and help each other out. That kinda sounded like a sweet deal, so I agreed. My brother set up a movie date for Jason and me by saying it's just a normal weekend hangout. Then he bailed out last minute. The date was perfect. I accidentally touched Jason's hand when we both reached for the popcorn. I thought that this was it. It's time for me to talk to him frankly. So after the movie, we grabbed a drink and I said to him, "I know you like me. Let's stop acting as if nothing happened." He looked confused and laughed. Then I went on more specifically. "You know, that night you came into my room?" But he kept looking really lost, saying that he didn't go into my room that night at all. Then his phone rang. It was Jane calling him. Her picture showed up on the screen. Why does he have her phone number? He picked up and told her he'd be over shortly. I immediately asked him about it. Then he stuttered, saying that actually, he and Jane had just started dating. They first met at my slumber party and had exchanged social media accounts and have been talking to each other nonstop ever since. He also said that they were thinking about how best to tell me and my brother about this. And, "Thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have met Jane. But what were you talking about before? Continue." Stunned, I quickly replied with, "Gotcha! I was just kidding. It was a dumb dare. My brother dared me to prank you because I lost a game to him." I made my excuses and swiftly left after that. I felt completely mortified. When I arrived home, I threw a tantrum and told my brother everything, including the part about me overhearing them playing Truth or Dare and the kiss. He just sat there listening with his mouth wide open. And then things all came to light. They dared Jason to go into the girls' room and draw on our faces, but he refused, so he chose Truth instead. And he answered a question saying that out of all the girls, he liked Jane the most. After that, my brother felt uneasy. He was confident that Jane had eyes on him, too, so he pretended to go to the bathroom, and then he came into my room. And before he could stop himself, he kissed Jane, and she kissed him back. But turns out, it was me! I was the girl who was lying on the mattress! He then screamed at me, "Why did you suddenly switch beds?" While I screamed back, "You stole my first kiss?" This is so disgusting and awkward. We quickly calmed down and stopped yelling at each other because it's even too embarrassing to fight about. We then swore to keep this a secret till the day we die. And now we have 2 heartbroken siblings who have accidentally kissed each other in this household. Not to mention, from now on, we will have to watch our crushes being all lovey-dovey with our friends, too. This is... Hey, Sally here. I'm 25 years old, and I love makeup. I mean, I really love it. I don't even answer the door barefaced to the postman. My fascination with makeup started back when I was just a little kid. My mom was a famous beauty blogger and even created her own cosmetics brand. Everyone from renowned models to Hollywood actresses wanted to use her products. Back then, the industry was different. It wasn't about YouTube and different media channels. Instead, people like my mom had to take different avenues to promote their products. I remember how amazing it felt to walk into a drugstore and see my mom's makeup on the shelves. But then, my mom's world came crashing down, and it was all thanks to one lame model. I knew something was up when my dad picked me up from school. He barely ever picked me up. Mom always did. And weirder still, he didn't say a single word to me. Then, I walked into our house to find Mom standing in front of the mirror as she smeared makeup all over her face. My mom was a glamorous, perfect-looking woman. I'd never seen her look or act like this before. I remember just staring at her, not knowing what I should do or say. Then she started crying, which caused the makeup to streak down her face. I remember thinking that she looked like a scary clown. She seemed so out of control. In a harsh tone, my dad said to her, "Will you just look at yourself? How can you let Sally see you like this?" Then he covered my eyes and pulled me out of there. I asked him what was going on, and he sighed and told me how a model had a bad reaction to the products during my mother's live webcast, and now she was getting treatment at the dermatology hospital. She blamed it on my mom's cosmetics products, which meant that both the press teams and police were now involved. Now the beauty industry was boycotting the range that my mom had worked so hard to create. The next day after school, my mom seemed to be in good spirits. She took me for a milkshake, and we sang along to Disney tunes in the car. I thought that everything was back to normal, but then we arrived home, and she sat me down and said to me, "Sally, you're going to be my model and save this family." Then she filmed herself applying her makeup products on me. She turned to the camera and said, "See, I dare to use my products on my daughter's delicate skin because I know there's absolutely nothing wrong with them." The problem is that footage of a young girl having her makeup done is boring in comparison to the shocking pictures of a famous model with burned skin. All the brands turned their backs on her, and she went from super successful entrepreneur to blacklisted overnight. An investigation later proved that the model's skin damage was due to dangerous fake Botox injections, not my mom's products. But this was too little too late, as my mom had already lost all her deals and partnerships, and the money spent on pricey lawsuits made my family bankrupt. After that, Mom left the beauty industry behind her. But that afternoon changed my life. I always felt a sense of self-esteem as growing up in an environment full of famous beauties. But that day, after being put on makeup by my mother, I felt so pretty. I looked in the mirror and found myself like all the dream girls I'd seen from my childhood. My new, beautiful appearance made me more confident. Since then, I started practicing makeup, and this obsession doesn't stop until I grow up. By the age of 14, I wouldn't be seen leaving the house without a full face of makeup on. It gave me this added layer of confidence and made me feel ready to face the day. When I had my makeup on, then it didn't matter as much that my parents were now poor. I looked and felt beautiful, and I could handle the world. Now at 25, I still adore makeup. I'm a self-confessed makeup addict. Even my boyfriend, Chris, had never seen my bare face. When I stayed over at his, I went to bed with a full face of makeup on. Then I waited until he'd fallen asleep so I could sneak into the bathroom and take it off and moisturize. Then I woke up 2 hours before he did, just so I could apply my makeup, then get back into bed and look like I'd just woken up that glamorous. Yes, keeping up appearances was hard work, but when he looked at me like I was the most beautiful girl in the world, well, that made it so worth it. Only on one occasion, Chris woke up early and walked in on me doing my makeup. I totally freaked out and immediately covered my face with my hands and screamed out, "No, don't look at me! I'm hideous!" He laughed and said, "Don't be silly. A bit of makeup doesn't change the fact that I love you and think you're the most beautiful girl in existence." This was sweet and all, but I still shouted at him until he left the room so I could finish off my makeup. His words got me thinking, though. Did he really, truly love me? We'd been together for 2 years, yet he'd never ever seen me fresh-faced. So how could he possibly know if he loved me if I wasn't wearing it? I couldn't stop thinking about this. I needed to know if he truly loved me for me or not. So I took all my makeup off. Yep, even my clear lip gloss. Then I tied back my hair and put on casual clothes and a pair of sneakers. I was standing right behind him at his favorite cafe. I hesitantly went to the table where he was sitting and was confused as to how to speak. That was when he looked up at me while still scrolling through his phone and said, "Yeah, you can take that seat as I'm leaving soon." He didn't recognize me. Interesting. I sat down in front of him, pretending to be a shy, cute girl, and softly starting up a conversation. I tried varying the tone of my voice to ask what I should order, and it worked. He completely thought that I was just some random girl. After we chatted for ages, I said to him, "I see you don't really have to leave soon, huh?" He smiled and complimented me on being cute. It made me feel a lot more confident. So by then, I had the courage to tell him that I was his girlfriend. But suddenly he grinned and said, "If you don't have a boyfriend, I wonder if I have a chance to get to know you?" What? He was still in a relationship with me? Unbelievable! Well, another plan just popped up in my head, so I tried to stay calm and replied coyly, "I'd like that." After that, I started living 2 different lives. When I put my makeup on and become energetic and attractive, Chris complimented me on how beautiful and charming I was, and proudly showed me off to his friends. But when I appeared with a bare face and acted all coy, he said that he loved how sweet and rustic I was, and that he thought girls who wore makeup all day were tragic. Tragic? How dare he? He would lie about going out with friends so he could spend more time with makeup-free me. Then he kissed makeup me and told me how he loved how glamorous I was and how I was the only girl for him. Yeah, right. I couldn't believe how fake this guy was. There I was thinking he loved me, but now he was cheating on me. With me! A playboy like him didn't deserve any version of me. So it was time for revenge. So when he asked makeup-free me to go on a trip, I shyly accepted. I knew he just wanted to trick an innocent girl into bed with him. But I'm not an ordinary girl anyways. As he was chilling out in the pool, I shyly said I would take a shower and wait for him inside. And I swear I saw his eyes brightened like a magpie. I ran into the bathroom to turn the shower on. Then I left a trail of makeup-free me's clothes and then snuck out into the room nearby that I'd booked for the night. There, I transformed into makeup me, then got back ringing the doorbell. Obviously, he had to hurry from the pool to open the door, and when he saw me, he turned so pale. I walked in without his welcome, calmly walked through the luxurious room, and picked up every trace of adultery I'd previously scattered on the floor. The sundress, the bikini, and even lingerie. Then I threw them at him. He was unable to say a word and got panicked when I kept walking straight to the toilet, where there was the sound of a shower pouring water, calmly saying, "The person I need to hit is inside, isn't she?" He panicked and ran in between me and the door.
"It's not worth your action, honey. She's nothing. You know you're my only one."
I asked him, "Is she beautiful?"
"Nah, she's boring and old-fashioned. Not like you."
I pushed him away and opened the door to enter. He panic-jumped right behind me and froze when his mistress was nowhere to be found in the hot shower steam. He probably thought she somehow escaped herself and, at least, saved his life. I still walked in, undressed, and put a bathrobe on myself right in front of him, then walked over to the mirror and started removing my makeup. He was still so bold and shameless.
"I completely had you fooled. There is no girl. This is my plan to bring you here. Let's enjoy the night, babe."
He really had a talent for lying. I just silently removed all the makeup on my face.
"I've never seen you remove your makeup. Tonight will be really great,"
he said as he walked over to hug me from behind. I finished by tying my hair up and wiping the steam on the mirror with my hand and said, "So, who do you want to sleep with tonight?" He looked up into the mirror to see another me and screamed in horror, running away as if he'd seen a ghost. That night, I gloatingly stayed in that luxury hotel room and enjoyed the first day of my single life. Makeup is my passion and hobby, and I won't change it for anyone, especially for that kind of guy. But I now realize that I deserve to find a guy who loves me unconditionally, whether I'm the glamorous, makeup-covered version of me or just plain, coy, makeup-free me.
Everyone seems to like Fridays, but I'm different. I hate Fridays. I work at a local bank. Trust me, that's not the kind of career where you get to sit comfortably all day and take care of generous customers. I'm stuck in a closed-off room all day, surrounded by stacks of paperwork. My butt is stuck in a hard chair for more than 10 hours a day. Too long, so now I have a herniated disc, spine, and neck issues. And even though I'm thin, my stomach is bulging. You're probably wondering why I just don't quit and find a more fulfilling job. Well, sometimes I think about it, but the money is pretty good, and, well, I have a family to support. The best thing about my job was the seriously hot bank lady I worked with, called Abigail. She was the most popular staff member there. Many customers came in just to chat with her. I know many of them would often flirt with her and secretly tip her, especially the middle-aged men. But it's obvious that she's just playing around with them. The person she really likes and actively flirts with is me. Even though I'm married, it's nice being flirted with by such a sexy lady. I have to enjoy the only pleasure in my workplace. But I will do nothing beyond the limit. Every day when she brought the documents to me, she always handed me a cup of coffee. She was the only one who praised my seahorse body, complimented the way I typed on my computer, and how I signed and stamped the papers that looked agile and charming. Processing paperwork for this girl always made me feel more inspired than for other people. I guess I'm a flatterer and needs compliments to add excitement to these boring white papers. She made my day at work more interesting. Fridays are our busiest day. There's usually a line stretching to the door of people wanting to cash in, get things signed, and old people wanting to chat with someone. But she made me regretful on that Friday, when I had to have a weekend off and return to my messy home. Yes, the house I lived in with my little family was completely a mess. On the days of the week, I often came home very late after work, so my wife and kids were already in bed. The weekend was different. Babysitting them on the sofa was enough to drive me crazy. The kids had endless energy, and I just wanted to pretend to die. I would shout out, "Don't do it," every 5 minutes, though sometimes I wouldn't even notice what they were doing. They kept snitching on each other, and I couldn't understand what the hell they were fluttering about. So I just kept saying, "Yes, that's so, and then what?" My wife does look like a ghost. Dark circles, scruffy clothes, messy hair, and talking to her is just as chaotic as the kids. I just wanted to go to work, sit quietly in my few square meters of room filled with papers, and occasionally be sweetly stroked by Miss Abigail. It was clear that Abigail liked me. She always made me exactly the type of coffee I prefer. A splash of milk with 2 sugars, which my wife couldn't even seem to manage. Then the Post-it notes started. Abigail stuck them on my coffee mug, with compliments on them such as, "Good aftershave choice," and "You look cute today." This was flattering, and there was no denying that she was an attractive woman. But I was a married man, so I pretended not to notice the notes. Once I was trying so hard to ignore a note that said, "Your lips look kissable," with a lipstick mark on my coffee mug, that I knocked my coffee over. It went all over my shirt and paperwork and made a right mess. Guess who was the first person to rush over with a napkin and help dab me down? Yeah, Abigail. She would deliberately walk behind me so she could squeeze my shoulder. She stroked my hair and even deliberately crouched down as I arranged the papers so that her huge breasts were super close to my face. I knew that I couldn't afford this high-end item, so I just let her do whatever she wanted and didn't dare to take the initiative. One Friday night, we were the last 2 people in the building. She came into my room, sat down on my lap, and started fiddling with my tie. I was like a frozen rabbit in headlights. I came to my senses and shoved her off me. I knew that if I let her continue, then things would get out of my hands. She hugged her head tiredly and told me to finish the paperwork quickly. I awkwardly stamped a bunch of papers without even looking over them and collated the number on the computer. She always made no mistake. And in such an awkward situation, I should quickly relieve both of us. The following day, Abigail was completely cold to me. I was also very sad and found it empty, but what else could I do? I had a wife and 2 kids. I had to think about them over my own desires. But just a month later, disaster struck me. The branch manager burst into my room with a stack of papers. He said something about how I stamped and passed a large payment, and asked me where the money went. Those papers were what I'd sealed in my delusion last month. I've worked there for many years. They believed me when I said it was an accident. Now I have to pay back the money, else I lose my job and end up blacklisted. No reputable firm would ever hire me again. I sold my house and all my assets to pay off the debt, and moved to a small house, like a cave. The space is too small, so I can't avoid my kids or now my very angry wife. I felt like I was sitting motionless and petrified on this sofa, between the sound of my wife grumbling and the sound of my 2 little boys snitching on each other. And all I can think about is Abigail's sweet smile and the sexy way she walks. Being the good guy caused me nothing but trouble, but perhaps I could have done more. I should have put a stop to Abigail's antics sooner, and then she wouldn't have distracted me and I wouldn't have signed my life away. It's all a big mess, and it looks like I'm stuck in my boring job forever. One thing for sure, I can safely say that I still hate Fridays. But I hate all other days just as equally now too.
One day, I was cycling to class, and I wasn't really paying attention because I was running late. I reached into my backpack to text my friend, telling her to cover for me in case the professor asked where I was. Suddenly, my phone flew out of my hand, and the next moment, there was just darkness all around me. They said it was a miracle I'd survived. The truck had come speeding around the corner and knocked me off my bicycle, sending me flying onto the sidewalk. If I'd cracked my head open, I'd be dead. But I wasn't all that lucky. My spine was so badly damaged, I'd never walk again. I tried to feel grateful to just be alive, but being in a wheelchair was hard. I was completely paralyzed from the waist down, so my parents had to do everything for me. The first time my mom had to bathe me, I just lay there and cried. I was 20 years old, and here I was, like a baby again. It was humiliating, and I could see how much it was affecting my parents. Mom had quit her job to look after me, but she was miserable. One day, I couldn't take it anymore and begged her to go back to work and hire a professional caregiver to look after me instead. They put an ad online, but it took a few days for anyone to apply. And the only person that applied was a young guy named Jason with no experience. My mom hired him anyway because she said he seemed so enthusiastic about becoming a caregiver. I was so angry. I didn't want some strange guy helping me get dressed and helping me go to the toilet. But then I saw him, and all those thoughts disappeared in an instant. He was so good looking. I couldn't believe it. I could barely look at him without blushing. I knew right away that we'd get on well, and that he'd just have to close his eyes whenever I needed to use the toilet. We'd figure it out. At first, he was quite shy. Whenever I asked him about his family or his past, he'd always become quiet and change the subject. It was like he was scared to open up to me. But the more he looked after me, the closer we became. Then one day, we were out in the park, and something happened. He'd packed a picnic for us, and just before we stopped to eat it, he bent down and kissed me on my forehead. It felt like the world came to a standstill. I just wanted to be in that moment forever. After that, it was clear we liked each other a lot. I couldn't tell my mom because I knew she'd be mad at me for falling in love with my caregiver. But it wasn't my fault. I didn't want her to fire him. So we kept it a secret. It was perfect. Every day, her and my dad would leave for work, and I'd get to spend all day with my boyfriend. We went to the park every day and to the movies once a week, and we even started learning Spanish together. But then one day he called in sick. It was completely out of the blue, and it wasn't a good time for my family because the court case trial was coming up in a few days. My dad was a lawyer and had insisted that we proceed with the trial because he truly believed the man in the truck deserved to be punished for almost killing me. I really wanted to put it all behind us and move on, but I knew there was no arguing with my dad. Jason was still sick the day of the trial, and I kept texting him, asking him to be there for me, but he said he couldn't get out of bed. I wanted to take him some soup or something, but he wouldn't even tell me his address. In the end, I had no choice but to go to court without him and hope it would all be over quickly. As soon as the truck driver appeared, I could feel how angry my parents were. He looked like the kind of guy who didn't care about what he had done to me. And as soon as he pleaded not guilty to the judge, my dad jumped up and started shouting. I was so embarrassed, and the judge called for a break before it was my turn to stand up and testify. I wheeled myself out of there in tears. All I wanted to do was see Jason, and little did I know that wish was about to come true. I went outside to get some air, and I was pushing myself so fast I almost bumped into someone. When I looked up, I realized it was Jason. I was so happy to see him, I almost cried. But he did not look happy to see me. In fact, he was turning bright red. "I thought you were sick," I asked him, and before he could answer, a woman appeared from behind me and said, "Jason, your dad needs you in there. Come on, son." I didn't understand. I asked Jason what was going on, and the woman looked at me and said, "How do you know my son?" Then she walked back inside. Jason looked at me and said sorry, and then he told me why he was really there. His dad was the truck driver who'd almost killed me. When he'd found out, he told his dad to come clean and admit his fault, but his dad wouldn't. Jason had felt so guilty about it that he applied for a job as a caregiver. But he hadn't realized I was the girl his dad had run over until a few days ago. When the letter had come through for the trial, he'd seen my name and almost vomited in shock. I sat there completely shaking. How could he have kept this from me? This couldn't be happening. The love of my life was the son of the man who put me in a wheelchair. I had about 10 minutes before I had to go back in there and tell the truth. I knew it would hurt Jason to see his dad go to jail. But what choice did I have? I told the truth, and now we're waiting to see what his sentence will be. I love Jason, but I don't know what our future will look like. My parents can't accept that we're together, and nor can his. I can't help but think, though, that if I hadn't been in the accident, I'd never have even met Jason. I guess at least there's one silver lining in all of this.
People often say love is complicated. Well, I wish I'd thought about that before I got involved in this ridiculous love story. It all started when my close friend Barry asked me to help him write letters to his crush Cindy. You see, I'm a pretty good writer, and I know I'd get in trouble if people found out about this, but sometimes my classmates will pay me to help them with their homework, especially essays. So anyway, when Barry asked me to help him win over Cindy, who he met when joining the play club of our school, of course I said yes. And no, I didn't charge him. I mean, he's my best friend after all. However, I had a plan. I'd been in love with my neighbor Alice ever since she moved in next door when we were kids, but I never had the guts to tell Alice how I really felt. Oh, and there was also one little problem. Alice had a serious crush on Barry. This was why I was so happy to help Barry win over Cindy. If Alice saw that Barry was no longer single, maybe she'd start noticing me, and then we could finally be together. So I agreed to help Barry. As I wrote that first letter, I just thought about Alice and the words came pouring out. The way her hair shimmered in the sunlight and her cute freckles. Thankfully, Cindy had freckles too. I wasn't sure if Cindy would like it, but the next day Barry found a reply in his locker. And so it went on. Every day I'd write a letter for Barry, and it was clear Cindy was falling in love with who she thought was Barry. But then one day Barry came running over to me and he looked worried. He said Cindy wanted to go on an actual date. He was freaking out because he said there was no way he could pretend to be smart and funny like he did in the letters. And then he told me she'd asked if they could recite poetry together, and that I'd need to train him somehow so he didn't give himself away. I would make it work. I had to, otherwise I'd never be with Alice. Just before Barry and Cindy's date, Barry was over at my place and I was trying to get him to practice reading some poems. He was terrible, but I couldn't tell him that. I just hoped Cindy wouldn't notice. When Barry left, he said I must follow him to his first date, in case there's any problems arose. I was about to go when Alice came in and said her family would go to a restaurant to celebrate her brother's birthday tonight, and they would like to invite me to go with them. Of course I agreed. I was close to her little brother. Then in a hurry I told her I had to go, and she asked where I was going. And I said I'd promised my mom I'd buy some groceries for dinner. I quickly jumped in my car and drove to where Barry was meeting Cindy. I told him I'd be nearby in case there was an emergency. From my car I can see into the restaurant and watch how the date was going. At first it looked good. I was so busy watching them, though, that I didn't notice Alice was standing right next to my car. When she knocked on my window, I got such a fright, I almost leapt out of my seat. She asked me what I was doing and where the groceries were. Suddenly, she glanced over the window where Barry and Cindy were sitting together. Oh no, she has certainly discovered something. While I was totally frozen, she turned back to me with her extremely stunned eyes. Are you stalking Barry and Cindy on their date? Then she climbed into my car and constantly questioned me in panic. What are they doing? Are they seriously dating? Why didn't I know anything about this? Geez, Cindy is my best friend. How could she? I was lost for words. She'd caught me. But then I asked her what she was doing here. She said that she was about to come and arrange the birthday party tonight, still angry. Anyway, as she was in my car, my heart started racing. Maybe this was my chance. Maybe I should tell her how I felt. As I turned to face her, I noticed she was looking at my phone. I quickly grabbed it, but it was too late. Barry had messaged me, and it had popped up on the screen. Help! What poem did you mention in your last letter? She's on to me! It seemed that Alice has understood all the story. She jumped out of the car so quickly I couldn't even stop her. She ran toward the restaurant and went straight up to Cindy. Barry had just gone to the bathroom, so he wasn't there. And as Alice told Cindy, I saw Cindy start crying. This was a disaster. And then the worst thing, Barry came back and Cindy started shouting at him. I quickly drove off. I couldn't bear to watch. This was all my fault. The next day, something crazy happened. I woke up and had a friend request from Cindy. I accepted her and she messaged me straight away saying she was seriously in love with me and she couldn't get my poems out of her head. I felt so guilty. What would she do if she found out I'd been thinking about Alice the whole time when I wrote them? No one knew about my crush on Alice, and I decided it was better to keep it that way. Now that Barry wasn't speaking to me, and Alice was so angry with me because of helping Barry. This was the worst situation ever. Even though Barry was upset with me, I'd never go behind his back and date Cindy. In fact, he couldn't find out that Cindy loved me. But later on, somehow Barry knew that Cindy loved me. He called me saying not only had I ruined his chances, I'd also stolen his love. Great, so I was suddenly the bad guy, when all I'd wanted to do was help out a friend. Neither Alice or Barry are speaking to me now. And at the same time, Cindy is constantly messaging me and always kept her eyes on me in school. I don't know what to do. I've lost my best friend and my crush, and instead gained a stalker.
Hey, I'm Kirsty, and I have an identical twin sister called Arabelle. We didn't have a normal upbringing, as our mom abandoned us at an orphanage when we were 6. We have our mom's dark blue eyes. That's pretty much all I remember about her. I'm not fully sure why she gave us up. I guess she was young and just couldn't cope. As little kids, my sister and I were close. We used to fool the other kids and the nuns into thinking that we were each other. Arabelle always wore a pink bow in her hair, so we'd both wear one and freak the kids out by double-crossing them in the corridors. Those were good times. But when we got older, everything has changed. I started to become green with envy at Arabelle. Everyone always liked her more than me. The nuns called her Little Cat, and every kid kept surrounding her like she was a sparkling star or something. They all thought she was so sweet and polite. This annoyed me because I knew the real her, and she wasn't sweet at all, if not a completely fake girl. And she just knew exactly what to say and do to get the most from people. Then, when we were 12, a lot had been happening that completely changed our lives. The orphanage had financial problems that could not be saved. Our nuns loved us so much that they didn't want to lose any of us, but they had no choice but to allow the social organization to find us adoptive parents. The nuns didn't want my sister and I to be apart, so they sent us to 2 families in the same town. But the god of justice must be blind as usual. Arabelle was way luckier than me. She was adopted by a wealthier family. My parents loved me anyway, but, well, she received all the best things, and that was just not fair. We went to the same school, and I was so sick of listening to her bragging. When we were at the orphanage, we used to wear the same kind of clothes, but now things were different. Arabelle always stayed in style, wearing the most beautiful clothes. So, although we are identical twin sisters, whenever we stand next to each other, she would be like a queen and I would be a maid. She easily got everything I ever wished for. Princess bed, a large window with a sea view, piano and ballet classes, and an amazing mom and dad. She talked about it all the time, and I got sick hearing it. It seemed like all of the greatest things were not enough for her. She didn't appreciate what they gave her and just always wanted more. If I were her, I would enjoy that dream life with gratitude and respect everything I got. Life was so unfair. Why did Arabelle always have the best while a girl like me was suffering from the day I was born? Adopting one part of a twin made our 2 new families close. My new family was always visiting Arabelle's big house for barbecues and nice dinners. To be honest, I did not want to go there at all. It was not a simple family meeting. It was just an event for her to show up. Her parents were so nice, and just by looking at the way they treated her, I could tell that they loved her so much. They often patted her head and called her Puppy. Arabelle acted all sweet. Then, behind their backs, she said this nickname made her feel sick, as she wasn't 5. No one seemed to realize the truth. Arabelle was absolutely not as cute as they ever thought. She actually was kind of insolent, haughty, boastful girl, and most of all, she was a fake. I remember one time when her mother's birthday party was taking place. Her mom looked stunning in that gorgeous dress, and people in the room just stayed silent for a while to show their impressing. Arabelle pretended to be cute and gave tons of compliments to her mom. But as soon as her mom turned her back on us, Arabelle whispered to me, "Look at her stupid smile. She is thinking that she really is beautiful, while everyone knows that I'm the one who looks stunning here." I was so sick of her double life. She was so lucky living that great life, but she had no appreciation for what she already had. And she was so fake. One time, I tried to unmask her true colors. I tried to tell my parents and our mutual friend about how she'd acted behind their backs, but they never believed me and just told me to stop being mean and selfish. They didn't understand a thing about her real version and even scolded me. I was the one who deserved that life, not that fake loser girl. That was when I decided to make a bigger plan. I wanted to replace Arabelle and live her life. I started staring at her work and copied her handwriting. I practiced imitating her voice. We sounded pretty similar, so this was easy. I secretly followed her and her lame friends at school so that I could learn all about their hobbies and habits. But my family was not as wealthy as theirs. I could only stand outside the restaurant, the clothing store, or the cinema. Watching Arabelle enjoy the good life just made my determination grow. When our families met up, I made an effort to get to know her parents more. Her mom likes playing the piano, and her dad likes taking care of his bonsai trees. Her mom can't eat seafood, and her dad is allergic to peanut butter. I jotted down every little detail about her life in my planning book. There were a lot of things I needed to learn until I was fully confident that I could become a second Arabelle and successfully replace her. But then something suddenly happened that made me speed up my plan. This boy called Milo I liked at school started flirting with my sister. And she flirted back. She knew I liked him, but this didn't stop her from agreeing to go on a date with him. She was such a demon. At this point, I couldn't stand her walking around and stealing all the best things I've ever wanted in my life. I had a plan. Back when I was in the orphanage, there was a man who often came to us and said impolitely to the nuns that they should sell him some children to solve their financial worries. Of course, the nuns refused him and kicked him out. He continued to come over a couple of times, and once he gave us his phone number, saying that if any of us got into trouble, we could find him. Then the nun showed up and threatened to call the cops. Well, that was the last time I saw him. I always kept that number because I knew there would be a day I would need it. And that day finally came. I called him, and we came up with a plan to solve my Arabelle issue. He sent her an anonymous message telling her to come to a secluded corner in the park to find out some juicy gossip about Milo. Of course, my nosy sister agreed. The man promised my sister would be sent to another place to work to help him earn money, and she wouldn't be harmed. I left a letter at home saying I'd had enough of the poor life and I'd found a better place to go. I told my parents not to be sad and not to look for me. I hid in a corner of the park and waited for my sister to appear. Then, when they took her, I could easily hop into her life and replace her. There would be no more Kirsty anymore, as I would perfectly be back as Arabelle. Well, the better version of her. Suddenly, I saw a black car stop in the distance. 2 tattooed guys got out of the car. I could see guns in their back. They stopped for a moment to wet a hanky with some liquid thing. This didn't feel right. I knew that this was going way too far. They would hurt my sister, and I was the one who was participating in this sin, and I knew that I would live in guilt for the rest of my life if I ever let it happen. I immediately ran out from where I was hiding, grabbed my sister's hand, and pulled her away. I heard their footsteps right behind us, so I ran as fast as possible to the crowd of people and screamed loudly at the same time to let people around pay attention to us. The other 2 men probably gave up when we ran into the crowd. After we got back to her home, I told her that I happened to be walking past and overheard the guys saying they were going to kidnap her. Then I just ran to reach her as fast as possible without thinking. She hugged me and thanked me for saving her life. She said that she always thought that I didn't like her, and she used to feel that way about me, too. Wow. That moment she came clear that she used to think that I was just a gross, dirty girl and didn't deserve to be around her, and she from time to time tried to pretend herself in front of me just to make me jealous. She was so sorry for her selfish mind and promised to change her character for me. I also told her that sometimes I became so mean because of envy, but facing this dangerous situation made me realize how much she means to me, and I will not let jealousy blind me anymore. Turns out, living a great life was that simple. We just need to talk straight and openly with each other to solve the problems between us. As for my parents, they read the letter I left them and got upset. We had a good talk, and I realized I was being the ungrateful one. Yes, so they didn't have as much money as Arabelle's family did, but they were good people who cared about me. Arabelle hadn't been the only selfish one. I'd been selfish too. Life's good, and Arabelle and I are getting on better than ever. Still, the guilt from what I planned eats me up. Should I come clean about what really happened, or should I keep it a secret and carry on like normal? I mean, it's not like anyone was hurt. right?